My wife faked her pregnancy. The day my wife told me she was pregnant, I felt like the luckiest man alive. For 3 years, Emma and I had been trying to start a family. We had visited doctors, changed our diets, tracked dates, and prayed every night. Each negative pregnancy test brought disappointment, but I always reminded her that we still had each other. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, everything changed. I had just returned home from work when I found Emma standing in the living room. Her hands were trembling, and tears filled her eyes. For one terrifying second, I thought something terrible had happened. Instead, she held up a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. "We did it," she whispered. I dropped my bag and rushed toward her. I hugged her so tightly that she laughed through her tears. I remember kneeling in front of her, placing my hand against her stomach, and promising our unborn child that I would always protect them. That night, we barely slept. We talked about baby names, nursery colors, and whether the baby would have her eyes or my smile. For the first time in years, our future felt complete. During the following weeks, Emma became extremely cautious. She stopped drinking coffee, avoided heavy lifting, and downloaded several pregnancy apps. Every morning, she told me how large the baby was compared to a fruit. At 6 weeks, our baby was the size of a pea. At 8 weeks, a raspberry. At 12 weeks, a lime. I loved every update. But something strange began happening whenever I mentioned doctor appointments. Emma always had an excuse. The first appointment was supposedly scheduled while I was working. I offered to take time off, but she insisted it was only a basic consultation. When she returned, she showed me a blurry ultrasound image. I stared at it for nearly an hour. "That little shape is our baby?" I asked. She smiled and nodded. I framed the image and placed it beside our bed. For the second appointment, Emma claimed the clinic had changed the schedule at the last minute. For the third, she said visitors were not allowed because of hospital restrictions. I found it disappointing, but I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife. As the pregnancy progressed, Emma's stomach began growing. She ordered maternity clothes and spent hours researching cribs, car seats, and baby monitors. Our families were overjoyed. My mother cried when we shared the news. Emma's parents immediately started calling themselves Grandma and Grandpa. We organized a gender reveal party in our backyard. Emma handed the ultrasound results to a bakery, and when we cut the cake, the inside was pink. A girl. I lifted Emma into my arms while everyone cheered. We decided to name our daughter Lily. After that day, Lily became real to me. I spoke to her every morning before work. At night, I rested my ear against Emma's stomach, hoping to hear movement. Sometimes Emma would suddenly smile and place my hand on a certain spot. "She kicked," she would say. I never felt anything, but she explained that the movements were still faint. Around the 6th month, things began feeling wrong. Emma refused to let me touch her stomach without warning. She started locking the bathroom door while changing clothes. She also became nervous whenever anyone asked detailed questions about the pregnancy. One evening, my sister Claire visited us. Claire had 2 children and knew a great deal about pregnancy. While Emma was in the kitchen, Claire quietly pulled me aside. "Has Emma's doctor said everything is normal?" she asked. "Yes." "Why?" Claire hesitated. "I don't want to upset you, but her stomach looks unusual." I immediately became defensive. "What is that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," she replied quickly. "Every pregnancy is different." Forget I said anything. But I couldn't forget. That night, I asked Emma for the name of her doctor. She froze. "Why?" "I want to send the clinic a thank you card," I said. Her expression softened, but she avoided the question. "I'll find the information tomorrow." Tomorrow came, but she never gave it to me. A few days later, I received a phone call at work. It was supposedly from Emma's doctor's office. A woman explained that Emma had experienced minor complications and needed complete rest. When I rushed home, Emma was lying in bed, crying. She told me the baby was safe but warned that stress could cause early labor. I felt horrible for questioning her. I apologized repeatedly and promised I would stop pressuring her. From that moment, I handled everything. I cooked, cleaned, shopped, and prepared the nursery. I painted the walls pale yellow and assembled Lily's crib myself. Every night, I stood in the doorway imagining my daughter sleeping there. Then, 3 weeks before the due date, the truth finally appeared. I had left work early because my manager noticed I was exhausted. I wanted to surprise Emma with lunch. When I entered the house, I heard voices upstairs. Emma was speaking to someone in our bedroom. I assumed her mother was visiting, but then I heard a man's voice. My heart started pounding. I quietly climbed the stairs. The bedroom door was partly open. Emma stood in front of the mirror wearing only a shirt and shorts. Her stomach was completely flat. On the bed beside her was a realistic silicone pregnancy belly. I stopped breathing. A man holding a camera adjusted the fake belly while Emma stared at herself in the mirror. "This one looks more natural," he said. Emma nodded. "We only need to make it 3 more weeks." The room seemed to spin. I pushed the door open. Emma turned around and screamed. The man stepped backward, dropping the camera. For several seconds, nobody spoke. I stared at the fake stomach on the bed, then at the framed ultrasound photograph sitting on the nightstand. "Where is Lily?" I asked. Emma began crying. "Please let me explain. Where is my daughter?" "There is no baby," she whispered. Those words destroyed something inside me. I grabbed the dresser to keep myself standing. The man quickly explained that he was Emma's cousin, Daniel. He had helped her take pregnancy photographs and make phone calls pretending to be from the clinic. I couldn't understand what I was hearing. The appointments, the ultrasound, the gender reveal, the baby kicks, everything had been a performance. "Why?" I demanded. Emma collapsed onto the bed. She told me that months earlier, she had believed she was pregnant after receiving a positive home test. She had been so excited that she told me before visiting a doctor. A few days later, another test came back negative. Then another. She realized the first result had been false. She planned to tell me, but she saw how happy I was. She saw our families celebrating. She became terrified that I would leave her or blame her for failing to become pregnant. So she lied. At first, she thought she would pretend to have a miscarriage. But every time she tried, she lost the courage. The lie grew larger. She bought an ultrasound image online. She ordered fake medical documents. She used padding beneath her clothes and later purchased silicone bellies. The gender reveal result had been chosen randomly. Lily had never existed. I listened without interrupting, but I felt nothing except emptiness. "What were you planning to do in 3 weeks?" I asked. Emma covered her face. She said she planned to claim the baby had died during childbirth. I walked out of the room. Behind me, she begged me to stay. I didn't. I drove for hours without knowing where I was going. Eventually, I parked beside a quiet lake and stared at the passenger seat. A pink baby blanket lay there. I had bought it during lunch that morning. I pressed it against my face and cried. I wasn't mourning a real child, yet my grief felt real. 4 months, I had loved Lily. I had imagined teaching her to ride a bicycle, walking her to school, and dancing with her at her wedding. Now I understood that every memory had been built on deception. Our families were devastated when the truth came out. My mother removed Lily's ultrasound image from her refrigerator. Emma's parents apologized repeatedly, though none of it was their fault. Some relatives said Emma needed forgiveness because fear had controlled her. Others believed what she had done was unforgivable. For weeks, Emma called and sent messages. She started therapy and admitted that she had become trapped inside her own lie. I wanted to feel sympathy. Part of me did. But whenever I closed my eyes, I saw the nursery. I saw the tiny clothes hanging in the closet. I remembered whispering goodnight to a daughter who had never existed. I filed for divorce 2 months later. Emma cried when she received the papers. She said she still loved me and wanted us to rebuild our marriage. But love without trust is only a memory. I sold the house because I couldn't walk past the empty nursery anymore. I donated the baby supplies to a local shelter, hoping they would bring happiness to real families. The pink blanket was the only thing I kept. Even now, years later, I sometimes think about Lily. Not as a real child, but as the symbol of the future I believed I had. Emma's lie taught me that betrayal does not always begin with cruelty. Sometimes it begins with fear, shame, and one desperate decision. But when a person protects a lie instead of protecting the people they love, the damage can become impossible to repair. I forgave Emma eventually, not because what she did was acceptable, but because I needed peace. Forgiveness allowed me to stop carrying her choices inside my heart. But I never returned. Some lies can be corrected with honesty. Others create entire lives, entire futures, and entire families that never truly existed. And when the truth finally comes out, it does not simply end the lie. It destroys everyone who believed it.